Today we're going to talk about the first steps of auto extrication. Alright, so as we mentioned before, this is going to be a 6-part video series over auto extrication, and our main goal here is just to really get good at the basics and the fundamentals. If we're good at the basics and the fundamentals, that's going to get us by on most of these calls, and then we're able to tweak things depending on the incident itself. It always relates back to EMS. Remember, we're here for whatever's best for the patient or the citizen, and reducing our on-scene times is the #1 priority. It goes back to the golden hour of trying to get them to the hospital within an hour. Within that golden hour, there's the platinum 10, which is getting them transported within 10 minutes. We can't control how fast they get transported, but we can dang sure control how fast we get them to the ambulance. So just keep that in mind when we're going through all these films. It's all about just working on our fundamentals, working on our basics, becoming extremely proficient. That way we can go ahead and reduce our on-scene times. In part 2 of our video series, we are going to be covering the walk-up, stabilizing the vehicle, and taking the glass. On our size-up and walk-up procedures, we have a couple things we want to hit. These are all common sense things that I'm sure we're already doing, but it's just a good refresher. First, we're going to observe the scene for hazards, such as leaking fuel, power lines, etc. Next, we're going to check on the patient. It's a good idea to have a window punch or something with you, just in case that window's not broken. Next, we're going to put the vehicle in park. We're going to turn off the ignition and remove the keys. Go ahead and set the parking brake. Cut the seat belt if it's hindering the patient. And then we're going to attempt to move the seat backwards and pop the hood before we cut the 12-volt electrical system. When we do our walk-up procedure and we're checking our patient, make sure you don't stick your head inside the cab. If an airbag's deployed, that's a good way to get one of us injured. So do all you can to not put your head inside the cab. When it comes to cutting seat belts, and you're using a seat belt cutter like this, the best way to get them to cut clean and easy is if you're going to go at a 45-degree angle across your belt. If you take your belt out and you just try to cut straight down, a lot of times it's going to bunch up on you. So if instead you'll come and cut it at a 45, it'll cut a lot cleaner and a lot quicker. Next, we're going to stabilize our vehicle. This is definitely something we can practice and get proficient at and get quick at. If it's something we don't think about very often, it's going to take us a long time to stabilize our vehicles. We're going to try to create as much contact as possible with the ground. We for sure want to put a crib underneath the A-post in case we need to push off of it, and then we want to put another one in front of the rear wheels. Make sure you're not blocking any access to your doors when you set your cribbing. Once we get our cribbing set, we'll go ahead and deflate the tires to finish out stabilizing the vehicle. If you're using step chocks, a lot of times it's good to turn it upside down, that way it fills a gap. If not, we may have a hard time having the step chocks fit exactly right. We have a couple different options when we deflate the tires. We can cut or pull the valve stems, or we can use the pick end of a Halligan. If you're going to use a Halligan, be sure to pierce the top of the tire. That way, as it deflates, the weight of the tire doesn't get your Halligan stuck. You can see here we pierce the bottom, and as that tire deflates, the weight of the tire gets our Halligan stuck. All right, we'll talk about cribbing taller vehicles. A lot of times, if we're just using step chocks and we have a taller vehicle, obviously they're going to be too small to fill the gap. So when that happens, we're going to have to go back to our traditional 4x4 cribbing. A couple things to keep in mind. Remember, when we do our crib stacks and we overlay our pieces, make sure whatever thickness this wood is, that amount needs to be hanging over for safety purposes to make sure our crib stack doesn't come undone once we get some weight on it. Also, make sure your load is transferred all the way down to the ground. We don't want to have weight going down through the middle of cribbing where there's a gap underneath. So you can see here we built a crib stack. Take your wedges, fill the gap, have that load going straight down, then we'll deflate our tires and all the weight of this vehicle will come down on our crib stack. Next, we're going to cover stabilizing vehicles with our Homatro V-struts. Quite a few companies are starting to carry these. They're used to stabilize vehicles in abnormal positions. We're going to make sure we set them at a 45 to 60 degree angle. We're going to set the top of the strut head high. We're going to hook the strap low, and then be sure to stow them so they can be quickly deployed, which we will show you how to do that at the end of this video. Jimmy, go ahead and check it while they're... You guys keep tightening now. Nope, keep tightening. The struts come with a heat shield sleeve. Be sure to slide that sleeve over any hot objects if there's a chance it'll burn the strap. If you can't find a good area to use the hook that's built into the strap, you always have the option of disconnecting the strap from the strut, wrapping it around a solid object, then hooking it back to the bottom of the strut. Then go ahead and extend the head. When it comes time to remove the struts, push the handle on the ratcheting mechanism all the way up, pull the strap down so it'll slide freely through the ratcheting mechanism, lower the head, disconnect your hook, and then wind up your strap. It's important that the strap is able to slide freely through the ratcheting mechanism. That way we can deploy it quickly next time we need it. All right, when it comes to taking glass on doors, this is tempered glass, so when we go to use our punch or our tool to break it, it's also gonna come in little tiny pieces. So if there is a patient on the back side and we're not in an exact life or death situation and we have time, it's a good idea to tape that glass up so the majority of that glass does not fall on our patient. If there's not a patient on the back side, or if it's a life and death situation, just go ahead and break it. If the window is tinted, that'll actually do the job of the tape for you and hold all that glass together and make it come out. So if we're going to tape our window, we're just going to go around the edges and then put an X through it. Take our punch or tool, break the bottom corner, kind of put your hand behind there, and pull the majority of that glass out by itself. So make it pretty quick and easy. At this point, break your window in the corner, pull the glass out. In our next video in this series, we will be covering gaining access to the engine compartment, de-energizing the car, removing the windshield and the roof.